The GovCon market is constantly evolving and shifting in response to a wide array of trends and new developments. In this interview, CGI Federal President Stephanie Mango, a two-time Wash100 Award winner, joined us to talk about which trends are shaping the GovCon ecosystem and what we can expect going forward. If you like this interview, please like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And if you're interested in being interviewed, you can email summer@executivemosaic.com. Hello, and welcome to Executive Mosaic's video interview series. I'm Summer Myatt, and here to speak with me today is Stephanie Mango, President of CGI Federal. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Summer.
So, Stephanie, I'm curious, what do you think are the most impactful trends in the GovCon market right now, and how do you think those trends will shape the GovCon industry going forward?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different types of trends we could talk about, the geopolitical environment, lots of things we could cover and probably talk about for days. I'd like to focus on really the things that are impacting technology and are impacting mission delivery. And the first trend is the increasing pressure to modernize. And for those of us who have been around for a while, we've been talking about modernizing systems forever. And people say, well, is it ever going to happen? First of all, it's probably never going to be done. But we also are making more progress because there's more pressure to do so. And what's driving the pressure is our adversaries are evolving. They're changing. They're adapting. So we need to have our technology adapted to meet them. The residents and citizens in the country have higher expectations of their interaction with their government. And as the digital natives grow up and become the majority, that's going to be even more of a pressure as we move into that. And of course, there's always a need to drive costs down, which brings us to the next major trend, which is budget uncertainty. And we might be just because we lived it very recently, but there's a big challenge there with the budget uncertainty. I looked it up because I was talking to my team. There's only been 3 lapses of funding, so 3 actual shutdowns that have happened in the last dozen years. But there's been 47 continuing resolutions. 47. And so when you think about that and the environment that our civil servants are having to work under and that type of uncertainty, it's hard to imagine what that must be like. So that's the second trend. The last one is really as a result of all of those and the changes in technology, the relationship between government and industry is changing. So back 50 years ago, government was really the only investor in technology. They were doing all of the R&D for technology. Well, now industry, because of how much the technology has evolved, are making just as many investments, and in some cases more investments. And so you're starting to see government and industry work together differently to drive that mission forward. And we're really excited about that change.
Stephanie, I'm curious how that paradigm shift, that relationship change, is manifesting itself in the industry, and how are you seeing those impacts at CGI?
Yeah, I think one of the first things we're seeing is the change in how they're running procurements. So the appetite for having, multiple phase procurements where you go through multiple down selects and really get to understand better and better at each stage. We're seeing it in a lot of proofs of concept, which is fantastic. Let's not just write a solution, you read about it, and then we figure out what to do. Let's sit in a room together, develop the proof of concept, apply the technology to the opportunity you have, and then let's see how it actually works. And then once we do that, if it does what we want it to do, then we can do a procurement to roll out the rest of it. So we're seeing a lot more innovation. We're also seeing some money go into places that are like the Defense Innovation Fund, where they can use that money despite some of the uncertainties.
So given the trends that we've been talking about, where are you seeing the most exciting opportunities for growth and innovation?
There are so many. There's so many opportunities for innovation with the way technology is moving. I think for us at CGI, one of the opportunities we see is the ability to bring best practices, bring solutions and technology from other industries and from other governments into the U.S. And, if you think about, let's think about cybersecurity. Who invests the most in cybersecurity? Banking, insurance, government, energy. And those are the ones that really invest in cyber. Well, why shouldn't we be bringing those capabilities between industries? And that's where CGI, we're 91,000 people across the globe in 40 countries. We're in 11 different industries. We're uniquely positioned to bring those capabilities over into the government to help them achieve their mission.
You mentioned CGI covers 11 industries. Getting into the specifics, which technologies do you anticipate will have the greatest impact across these industries and across the federal government in the next few years?
Yep. So, Summer, what do you think the most important asset is we have in technology?
Are people behind it?
That's a good one. I like that one. And data, right? Data is the biggest asset that we actually have. All technologies are starting to revolve around data. So you have systems that generate data, and that's where you get into, of course, your normal applications, but it's also the proliferation of the Internet of Things, right? We've got sensors everywhere. They're measuring different things. They're bringing in data. And so all of these different tools and technologies are bringing data in. And then you have the solutions and the technologies that are used for data exchange and for transporting data. So that's where you get into 5G, the low orbiting satellite. And those solutions and those technologies are making a difference because we got to transport all this data. So we've collected it all, now we got to move it around. And then we got to bring it all together and get actionable intelligence from it, which is not easy, right? I mean, it was hard enough to get actionable intelligence when we had this much data. Now we got, a lot of data. How do we get actionable intelligence from that? And so that's where you get in with the powerful analytical tools, the simulation and modeling tools, so that you can look to the future and try to figure out which way you should go. That's where those technologies are really going to come into play.
Stephanie, I want to ask you about artificial intelligence, which has made waves in the public and private sectors lately. What kind of impacts do you think AI will have, and how are you preparing for these changes?
So for me, I started preparing by learning what the heck it was. I'm sure I'm not the only one who the first time I heard it was getting on the search engine really fast. So I installed ChatGPT on my phone and started using it. And what was interesting to me is how quickly it became my tool of choice when I was seeking information about something. And the reason it was my tool of choice is because it gave me what I needed in the most concise way, but yet fulsome. Like it had what I wanted, and I was able to refine it. So I'd ask it a question and give me an answer. I'd say, well, that's not quite what I'm looking for. Can you help me with this? And we would go through a chain together. It's an interesting dynamic there, and how humans and machines interact is evolving. And I can't wait to see how it evolves over the rest of my lifetime. And so when you look at AI, the technologies there, machine learning, AI, these are not new technologies. What's making it really take off now, and what's going to make it continue to accelerate, is that we now have the hyperscale computing. We have the ability to process all of the data and able to process it relatively quickly. And we didn't have that before. And so that's really the difference between where we were and where we are and how they're being applied. And if you think about it, I looked it up. There are 40 billion devices in the world, estimated over 40 billion devices. There's 8 billion people, and all of those are contributing data every day. But you think about it, everyone's got all that data, and now we've got the computing power to process it and turn it into information. It's going to be a fascinating future in front of us. So you asked about how we're preparing, and I talked a little bit about how I'm preparing, but how are we preparing as an organization? And, to really get the power out of these AI tools, you need to have clean data. And that's hard with where we're coming from. You have to have data, you have to have data governance, because as we're bringing it all together, it needs to match up and be clean. And so one of the primary things we're doing right now is working with the agencies to get the data ready to bring the technologies in so they get the benefits once we do that. In addition to that, we're investing in the technology and we're investing in our team. We want to put these technology tools in the hands and brains of everybody that has that deep domain knowledge, because they're the ones who are going to think of those ideas of how can we leverage these technologies to make a difference in how we accomplish the mission. And so we're investing a lot in that. We're investing in bringing on more talent that's coming from different places, really a nationwide search on people who are using these technologies already and have some ideas. And then, of course, what I talked about earlier, which is leveraging the larger company we have and looking at those experiences and bringing them together for the government. The last thing we're doing to prepare, and this is probably the hardest one, is creating a culture of continuous learning and one of openness to change. Because as these things evolve, like we talked about, a lot of things are going to change. And so we need people who love to learn, which luckily for us, most people who go into IT consulting love to learn. IT has always changed quite a bit. We need them to continue to be embracing of change. And that's going to be one of the bigger challenges for government as well, is creating that environment and culture of embracing change, not just managing it.
What kinds of applications do you see for this kind of capability, for AI technologies in the federal space? And with the acceleration of these technologies, do you think that could happen soon, or what's the timeline that you're looking at?
It's happening now. It's already happening now. And the first iteration that we're seeing is what I would call intelligent assistance, I think is the terminology. And that's where you have the machine next to you, like I was talking about how I use ChatGPT, and it's helping you execute your job. And it's helping you to execute it better and faster. And so that's where we're going to see the first kind of boom, is how do we take these intelligent assistants and leverage them in all sorts of positions in the government and to accomplish all sorts of things that the government can't do with the resources they currently have. And so that's the first wave that we're going to see. And then after that, where we'll get into the more of that modeling and predictive analytics, which are not just going to tell us what we should be doing, it's going to tell us where we should be going in the future. And, it's hard to talk about any of these technologies and not say things like ethical use of AI, which is probably one of the bigger buzz phrases right now. But it's very important, the ethical use, right? When you think about AI in our personal lives and elsewhere, it's really making us ask a lot of interesting questions. There's the practical questions. What does intellectual property mean in the future with these type of generative? Can a machine own intellectual property? How are we going to change the patent law as a result? And so there's some very practical questions. And then there's some more, interesting fundamental questions about, human-machine interaction. This is a real, they're calling it the next industrial revolution. So I don't know what jobs that we haven't even thought of today are going to exist tomorrow, and what jobs that exist today aren't going to exist in the future. And how do we make that work for everybody? So it's a lot of complex problems, but it's very exciting technology.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for your time today and all the work you do at CGI Federal.
Thank you.